Jasean Francis and Charles Riley were two young men that lost their life to gun violence in the city of Chicago. To every story, there's a backstory to help you further understand why things happen. These are the story of the wicked streets of Chicago. The streets don't just carry footsteps, they carry stories. Some are about resilience, some are about survival, and some are about innocence lost too soon. This is a story of two boys, teenagers, doing something completely normal, buying candy. But on a June afternoon in 2020, a brief encounter turned into tragedy. They walked home, they never made it back. South Shore, on Chicago's South Side, is a community full of life, history, and heart. But like many Chicago neighborhoods, it's also familiar with violence, the kind that echoes long after the sirens fade. Families here raise their kids with love, but always with caution, because around every corner, life and loss walk together. Jasean Francis was 17. His friends said he liked video games and snacks. He wasn't a troublemaker, just a teen. Charles Riley was 16. He was moments from adulthood, laughs from graduation, and memories from a future now taken too soon. On the afternoon of June 20th, 2020, the boys asked their mothers for permission to walk down the block to buy candy. It was innocent, ordinary, a kid's errand. They walked in the store, they paid, then they walked out. No fights, no insults, no problems. Just teens buying candy. Inside that store that afternoon was 19-year-old Laroy Battle. They didn't know him, never met him. They never crossed paths before. When they saw him, they commented, asked how tall he was. It wasn't mean, it wasn't mocking, it was curiosity, the harmless chatter of teens. They left like an ordinary walk home, but then he followed them. 9 shots rang out. 2 boys were hit.
The victims, 17-year-old Jasean Francis and 16-year-old Charles Riley, were with another friend Saturday, went to get candy from the store. Police say the teens saw 19-year-old Laroy Battle in line and commented on his height because he's pretty tall, and they asked him how tall he was. They didn't know him. They left, he followed, and police say Battle shot the teens multiple times, killing those 2 boys in an alley near 79th and Luella. Neighbors saw him tossing a gun in the trash, but there was very good surveillance video of the gunman, and police say justice was swift in this case because of help from the community. He was identified and arrested yesterday morning, hiding out at a hotel in Schiller Park.
That's the only thing that we have is from talking to the witnesses' friends. That's the only conversation that occurred. There was no altercation. There was nothing that would have set off a battle to be angry at these kids. They literally, he's about 6'3", 6'4", and they literally just asked him how tall he was because he is extremely tall. I know it doesn't make any sense, and so just imagine how the parents feel.
It's a very tragic case. Battle is now charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder as well as possession of a controlled substance. There is a socially distant prayer vigil that is being planned for those 2 victims tomorrow evening near the scene of that shooting.
The Chicago Police Department investigated the scene on the 7900 block of South Luella Avenue, alleyway just off the corner store. They found 9 shell cases, no signs of a struggle, no preceding argument, no reason anyone could find. Jasean was shot in the back, chest, and left hand. Charles Riley was shot in the back and left leg. Both were rushed to University of Chicago Hospital, but both died from their wounds that evening. The 3rd teen that was with them walked away uninjured. These were fairly ordinary kids with family dinners, graduation dreams, birthdays left to celebrate, whose lives ended too soon because violence met them on a walk home. Police quickly identified Laroy Battle through community surveillance footage. He was found hours later hiding out in a motel, arrested without incident. Battle had a previous conviction of unlawful use of a weapon and was on probation at the time of the murders. He was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and denied bond. In April 2025, a jury found him guilty of these killings. He was sentenced to life in prison.
You may remember this from June of 2020. Police say the victims encountered 19-year-old Laroy Battle at a corner store at 79th and Luella. The 2 students were buying candy and happened to ask how tall Battle was. Battle then followed the teens outside and shot them both in a nearby alley. Jasean Francis and his friend Charles Riley were both killed. A jury has now convicted Battle.
A man convicted of shooting and killing 2 Chicago teenagers in an unprovoked attack in South Shore is sentenced to life in prison. The prosecutors say that Laroy Battle killed the 2 teens after they encountered him at a corner store and asked him how tall he was. Battle was convicted for the 2020 shooting earlier this year.
No motive was ever firmly established. Police said there was no fight. Nothing said before the shooting. Only they asked how tall he was. The community gathered. Family and friends wept. Candles lit the corners of the block. People stood and asked the same question. Why? He wasn't threatening. He wasn't in danger. He wasn't attacked. He was curious, just like any teen. And yet, 2 young lives were gone. Chicago is a city of resilience, but also a relentless violence. Not every story has a reason. Not every shooting has a motive that makes sense. But these tragedies leave marks that echo from beyond the streets. Kids should walk home safely. They should feel free to ask simple questions. They should feel secure on the sidewalks, not unsure if a normal day will be their last. The ripple of these 2 deaths is felt in classrooms, dinner tables, hospital hallways, and prayer vigils all across the city. Jasean and Charles didn't die because of a feud. They didn't die because of retaliation. They didn't die defending their block or their name. They died because one afternoon, someone chose violence instead of peace. Because when the city normalizes filth, it forgets how to protect its kids. Let their names ring louder than the bullets that ended them. Let their story remind us violence doesn't discriminate, but peace starts with compassion. And I think that what we can learn from the story of Jasean and Charles is this. 2 boys left their house asking for candy. They came back in body bags. Not because of beef, not because of war, not because they disrespected anybody. They died because someone couldn't control their anger, because a gun was easier to reach than accountability, because in Chicago, we've gotten so numb that we forget how precious a child really is. We got to be honest with ourselves. These streets don't kill kids. We let them die when we stay silent, when we look away, when we normalize madness. A question about how tall you are should not cost 2 lives. A walk to the store should not be a death sentence. A mother should never have to bury her son for doing something as simple as buying candy. Real power ain't holding a gun. Real power is walking away when your pride is burning. Real strength is choosing your future over your ego. You got to protect our children. We got to protect our children better than we protect our reputations. We got to love life more than we glorify violence. We got to teach our young men that it's okay to feel disrespected, but it's never okay to take a life. Jasean and Charles didn't deserve this. Their families didn't deserve this. This city doesn't deserve to keep losing its babies like this. Let their names be a mirror. Every time you think about picking up a gun, remember their faces. Every time you feel like acting on rage, remember their mother's tears. Because once that trigger is pulled, there is no apology big enough, no sentence long enough, no prayer strong enough to bring them back. Chicago, we got to break this cycle. Not tomorrow, not next year, now. Otherwise, the next candy run could be another funeral. The next corner store could be another crime scene. And the next mother's knock at the door could be the worst news of her life. If we don't change, the streets gonna keep taking what we love most. This has been another episode of Wicked Streets of Chicago. It's your boy, SNTV. I'm out.